Please join me in welcoming back Director Alyssa Namias.
Thank you. And I would like to bring up to the stage Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, and Morgan Freeman. Jesse Krimes, Russell Craig, Jared Owens, and Gilberto Rivera. And also Ben, Marie Hinson, and if you worked on the film and want to come up, please join us. Hi.
So, Alyssa, let me start with you. How did you come to this project? How did you find it? How did you develop it?
So, as I think Jesse said, or you said at the beginning, it's been a long process. The film started in 2014. I read a small blog about Jesse and Apocalypse Teen on a blog called Prison Photography by Pete Brook. And I just was obsessed with the story and with the work, and I kept telling my husband about it. He's like, you gotta contact this guy. And there are moments when sort of being a documentary filmmaker is useful and just reaching out to people and introducing yourself. So I did, and asked Jesse what he was up to and how he was doing and if we might talk about his work. And he asked to see some of my films, so we had an exchange and talked on the phone several times, and then I flew out to Philly to meet him and do a first interview. When we sort of, I don't know, what made you say yes to doing a film or sort of want to collaborate?
I regret it every day. No, I mean, I think like when I first came home, it's just like people weren't talking about mass incarceration. Like it's in the popular lexicon now, but back in 2013, I mean, there might have been like an article here and there in newspapers, but like there were so many people in prison and no one was really talking about it. And so, when you approached me with that opportunity, I thought it was a great way to try and draw attention to this issue, even though I'm an extreme introvert and don't like being filmed or followed or having my life on screen. But at the same time, it just felt like very important.
Yeah, I remember
and you also
you
did
saying,
a very good job as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I do remember you saying, like, I don't really want to necessarily do this as a person. Like, I don't want to be seen in that way, but I know how important it is. And also, I think what, my previous work had been about art and artists as well. And so I think we had that as a foundation where it was like, yes, it is about mass incarceration and we're drawing attention to an issue, but it's also going to always be focused on the art and the creative process, and that's going to lead. And then you introduced me to these guys, and we knew we had, an even bigger story.
Full cast.
The full cast.
So then I guess to the Avengers, right? What was this experience like for you, especially as an introvert? This is to have a film made on you and to focus on everything you're doing. It can be invasive, or it can be very complimentary and common. What was that experience for you guys?
I started. It was awesome from the beginning to the end. Oh, and I would like to say that part where I was the voice of reason. That's like that. It's usually Jesse that's like, stay on track and everything. So I had to jump in there that day. But to answer your question, it's just amazing to be a part of it, and I'm so glad that you guys had this vision, that you decided to allow her to film you, because then we got included and it really showed like the story. Like, it's so authentic, it's so real. There's a lot of gimmicks, a lot of fake stuff out there with extra spice on it or whatever, but this is real. This is a real guy, and we was there, our experience was real, and it was just an honor to be a part of it.
I mean, for me, Jesse on film, when I first heard this, I was like, no way. Because like you said, he's an extreme introvert. I was with him every day for some years, and he's super quiet and super unapproachable in prison. So I said, how's that gonna work? So when I first heard that Alyssa wanted to do it, I was like, wow, this I gotta see. And and it worked out good. I mean, he's still an introvert, but he's opening up now. Art made him open up.
No.
Yeah, but he's opened up now compared to when I was with him, and it's like, it's beautiful to see. So, I mean, thanks to the film, I think, and then all the life experiences since he's come home, making art, being in the art world is you know, it's a big thing.
I just want to say thanks to y'all for letting me be part of it. And basically, Jesse opened the doors and the ears of people that could make changes to hear us. So I believe he was making the film, us being real experiences, and then people meeting us. That changes their thoughts on what, you know, criminals are, right? And there's real people back there, man. Some people are there for things that they didn't do. There's some things. I take credit for everything I did. I don't cry. I did my time. I did 18.5 years. I'm not bitter. I know better today, right? And there's a lot of people there that need to come home because a lot of them learned their lesson. There's a study in this that asks this warning like who you would let out, right? He said, I would let out all the lifers, right? And I was like, wow. So it's like, I don't think we'll do it again. The longer you stay there, the less chances of you coming back. Some of these people need to come home, you know, and I think you, I think Jesse, you know, and through the arts, man, we open the people's ears, man. And hopefully that makes an impact on how the system is running.
And Alyssa, did the story take you in any unexpected directions from where you started out?
Well, that's a really good question. I think that like I said, started off with the art and with incarceration and wanting to understand how, like, with art as a kind of way of exploring the institution of prison and mass incarceration, and the ways that Jesse's process could take us through the prison system in an interesting, like, kind of subversive way. And then, you know, I also ended up becoming really interested in, I don't know that I realized when I started that I'd follow you for so long, you know, since
I didn't realize that
coming
either.
home. And
Just been like that
it
today.
became a lot about how that institution stays with you. You know, you come home and it's still, like you say, like you're entangled in that web. And so that became really interesting to follow, and I didn't expect that, especially when, you know, with you guys too, and the different trajectories and the way and what you started to do. And you know, I didn't know whether you were gonna be able to stay home, or, you know, and I don't know if you did either at the time. You were determined, but that was a question. So I didn't know how it was going to turn out, and I think we're all just so glad that it did turn out this way, and the things that you guys have been able to do. The film only shows a piece of what these guys have been able to accomplish, and they're, like Jesse said in the film, not stopping anytime soon. So that really impressed me, and I think also how it became about, like, an exploration in a way of masculine friendship, right? Like the bromance part of it has been really amazing, and the way your relationship with your son, like all of that was within, you know, it started with art, and then it was like, okay, this is much bigger.
So I do want to let the audience ask a couple questions. Does anyone out there want to throw something this way?
We answered that.
All the way back. Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. When you started to talk about the fact you didn't know how long it would be,
Yeah.
and how did you know when it was like, okay, I have enough now, this is done.
Yeah.
I'm ready, it's film is ready. How do you know when that?
That's often a question with documentary, because you are in the real world and things keep happening, unless maybe you have a competition documentary or something and it's over quickly. With this film, I think, well, Jesse was kind of begging me to stop, and he's like, really, you have to bring the camera? No, just kidding.
After the first year,
Yeah, really? We're still going with this? No, he wasn't begging, but I think that you know, when you had your first New York show, like some of the early things that you talked about when you came home were there were two things. It was like, I want to make it in the art world, like I want to be able to sell work and have a practice that is like that, and then also you talked about wanting to empower other formerly incarcerated artists and people, other formerly incarcerated people in general. And so I think that once those two things between right of return, which is an incredible, what is rightofreturnusa.org, is that your, it's an incredible program that they started, and then between that scene, Jesse's gallery opening at Malin Gallery, which was like his, I don't know, it was a moment in the art world that was well reviewed, and I thought, okay, that we can end there. Yeah. Although we could have kept going. The film.
I also wanted the part of suing Chase Bank in there.
Oh yes, that's the outtake that we're both bummed about. Yeah. You want to tell them about it? Now that we brought it up.
Yeah, I mean, so there was a point in time when, after I came home, that actually Robin, who was here, connected me to these two lawyers that are here in Philadelphia, because she saw an article somewhere and asked if I had been charged these fees by these debit cards that you're issued when you come home from federal prison. And I had been charged those fees, and I actually had all of my documentation. And so she connected me with the lawyer. I provided them with all of the documentation, and they brought a class action lawsuit against Chase Bank for their predatory practice of charging incarcerated people when they are released these like crazy fees that they don't charge regular people. And we're talking about like working for 40 cents an hour, and then they force you to get your own money onto a prepaid debit card, then charge you crazy fees on top of it. And so anyway, that class action lawsuit was successful and set the precedent.
It was extraordinary, and I think, and we did try to make a scene, and it was like, there was nothing to film. It was lawyers and paperwork and a lot of...
Still one of the coolest things.
But it is one of the coolest things that you've done, yeah.
Anyone else? One or two more out here? One right here, right in front. Great.
Yeah, can you talk about Molly and the litigation to expand the narrative?
Yes, thank you for that question. So we collaborated, Jesse and I, with Molly Schwartz to do the animation, who's a brilliant animator. And so the process, especially the beginning of the process, was super collaborative. I talked with Jesse about what aesthetic like what kinds of textures and colors and imagery. And the animation, you see it often in prison, but and so it does represent prison, but really you see it when he's in his kind of inner world or his imaginative world, like when he's a child or when when you're talking about the nightmarish rearrest. And so you brought up references like William Kentridge and others that we looked at with Molly, and then some of the details too, like we did some sketches and frames that where Jesse would be able to weigh in and say like, oh no, the cutting tool looked like that, or what about this sort of thing. And so it was the most collaboratively that I've worked with like a film participant, and it was really rewarding for me. And then probably 3 years before the film was finished, and then the biggest push was obviously at the end, but it was a long process.
Let's do one more right there.
When are you showing again during the festival, and how can people follow along with the progress of the film and the artists?
Great question. Do you guys want to go down and tell people how they can follow you, like your Instagram handle or?
You can follow me on Instagram. Is RIVERA_G_054.
We tag him a lot at Krimes Film. So if you want to find him, you can go through that too, at Krimes Film.
So
You guys simplify that.
We're going to try to shorten it.
my IG is Jared Owens 111. And right now, interestingly enough, all four of us are in an exhibition that's closing tomorrow in New York City at Martos Gallery. So sorry for the short notice, but
Hold on.
you can get up there. It's only 2.5 hours away.
You know, if they Google this now, it comes out artists, right? If they Google our name, they'll be like artists.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and if you Google our names, yeah, there'll be like a crumb sniffing trail.
Somebody called me and was like, yo, I got
We've all done.
and you came okay. It says artist, man.
Yeah, but we've all done so much stuff that it's there's press, and so it's not just Instagram. It'll be all over the place.